flood south of town is pretty deep.
Yes. Lanternbirds, cockabirds, and sandbirds.
That's all right. You're right.
Uncle Earl
Flash
figured it
on
out.
everybody.
I think he's the one that thought it up.
Knowing him, he had some pretty good ones. Some I can't share out.
I know. I said, man, Dad,
Chris,
sometimes he
there's
gets
a
raised.
plaque here for you to take a look at real quick when you get a second.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
How's that? So I like how they did the dimensions in it. I had a feeling it was like,
Yep, she'd enjoy it.
it's amazing what they could do with.
Shut my phone down.
Yeah, make sure people are calling me off the hook and that. Make sure I shut down my ringtone.
I think so.
Oh, thank you. Pass these down, actually. That was handed to me on my doorstep. Anonymously.
Okay, so just go like this. Put one in here.
Everybody runs this once before.
Yeah.
Are we ready, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Call this meeting to order of the Wiggins Town Council, the regular board meeting of August 14th, 2019. Charles Rule presiding in place of Mayor Mac Leon. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Pat.
Chris Sandoval,
Here.
Jeff Palmer,
Here.
Bruce Miller,
Here.
Pat Musgrave,
Here.
Mayor McLean is absent, and Charles Rule.
Here. Move on to the town staff reports. Paul?
Pass it down. I'm passing out Sergeant Ferguson's report with her information on it. She won't be able to be here tonight. And just let you know, my TA report's mainly been preparing for the budget that we had last night, the budget meeting, and getting that put together. Been working a little bit Morgan Strong and corresponding with them as they're working on trying to get the rec district started. And just spent quite a bit of time on meeting prep and working on finishing up some of the USDA stuff for the grants. Public Works this week has been fairly busy with just a lot of equipment repair issues and trying to get some equipment on. The mower's been down, some trucks have been down, so there's been spent a lot of time trying to get that done. Quite a few staff have been either on vacation or sick leave or doctor appointments. Let's see, we've still been having a few electric issues at the RO with some of the pumps, so that's been taking quite a bit of time watching it, monitoring it, especially with the heavy use. We have an RO that keeps turning off and one of the motors that isn't syncing right, so I think we got some of that problem worked out. Also the pumps at the booster station, we've been having a little bit of trouble with those and just VFD problems, and I think we got most of that worked out. We have concern about our our secondary pump that comes on, which is pump number 3. It's continually running pretty warm, and so we had it checked out on a meter, and so far it looks okay, but it is our oldest pump there, so, and it's getting quite a bit of heavy use. And they've also been working on some crosswalks. And the other big thing is we've been getting ready. CDPHE is going to be in I think around the 20th or 21st, and we're doing our every 4-year inspection, which is about 6 years. So this will be on our wastewater permit for the RO system is up for inspection. So that will be occurring. So we've just been working with our operator in charge, Richard Hopp, to get all the paperwork, make sure everything's in order and set for that. Yeah, what you got, Pat?
Well, we are working greatly on the election, of course, which you'll see later on. And as you can see on the agenda, we have some things that need to be signed for the election. Petitions are out and available. They have until the 26th to be returned. So that was getting that together, the packet together for that. And just day-to-day, the day-to-day paying of the bills and running the office. So busy.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Mayor is not here. Was there any trustee reports?
I haven't been able to make it to the Morgan Strong. Been too busy at work. Every time their meetings come up, I have a full load, so I will get there, I promise. Hopefully it slows down a little bit, and I'll be able to make it to one of their meetings.
Sure, and I got some information tonight, so
Okay.
feel free to call me if you have any questions on it. So it's just still initial, but they're rushing because they're trying to get to the November ballot, so it's been pretty hectic.
Okay, anything else?
I want to ask Paul a few questions or something I can bring to his attention real quick. With the Public Works, next time they're at the park, could we start having them get them large stickers that are starting to grow across the sidewalk? There's one big plant right by the concessions, and then when you're walking the inner sidewalk, there's quite a few of them growing across.
Sure.
So if we get them before they dry up, then
Yeah,
we won't
I'll-
lose the stickers.
I mean, Sam's here, so I'm sure he's listening. We've just been very short-staffed. We've had quite a few of the younger kids that do that have been on vacation and baseball camp and this camp and that camp, so that's usually who we use on that. But yeah, we'll get it on the list.
If we get it now, then we'll just prevent the future seeds.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, let's move on to public discussion. The Board of Trustees welcomes you and thanks you for your time. If you wish to address the Board of Trustees about a specific concern or comment on an item, this is the only time set on the agenda for you to do so. We ask that you be respectful and courteous when addressing the board. When you are recognized, please step to the microphone in the front of the meeting room and you state your name and address. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Board may not respond to your comments at this time, but rather take them, your comments and suggestions under advisement and provide direction to the appropriate member of town staff for follow-up. If you wish to comment on matters related to the public hearings, please hold your comments until the public hearing has been open for public discussion. The microphone is open.
Good evening. My name is Mark Strickland at 102 11th Avenue, and I wanted to announce that I have officially submitted my petition for the election. So I just wanted to say hello again, and hopefully I can earn everybody's vote. And just a little bit about myself again, that I have been in Colorado since 91. Lived up in Dillon for up until about 2006. Lived in Greeley until we moved here. So I definitely got a different perspective from one small town to a large town back to a small town. I didn't really care for the super big town in Greeley, so I definitely feel the comfort here. I can see that you guys do too, enjoy that as well. But I just wanted to see if I can answer any questions that you guys might have.
You put us on the spot, didn't you?
Well, yep.
Thank you for putting your name into
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, that's
for the election,
That's-
Mark.
really
you.
awesome of you.
Appreciate that.
Where do you want to see Wiggins in the next 5-10 years?
I want to see Wiggins sustain and be able to not just grow, but to be able to not move backwards and not slide to where it could be where we have more problems than solutions. So hopefully we can work together and not, you know, bind on each other and you know, bounce ideas off each other to be able to see, okay, what is a solution for this or what's a solution for that? You know, it may be something simple, may not be something simple. I don't have all the answers. I don't think you guys do either. But that's why as a team, working together with different backgrounds and different solutions, we may be able to slowly progress to the future.
Sounds good. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If there's no one else, we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, public hearings.
I'm sorry, we have no public hearing, so you can jump down to consent agenda.
Okay, no public hearings.
Nope.
We'll move on to the item number 4, approval of the consent agenda, approval of the minutes of the July 10th, 2019 meeting, and approval of accounts payable in the amount of $62,412.42.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is, and second has been submitted. All in favor, say aye, or I'm
Aye.
sorry. Roll call, please.
Okay. Chris Sandoval,
Yes.
Jeff Palmer,
Yes.
Bruce Miller,
Yes.
Pat Musgrave,
Yes.
Charles Rule.
Yes, thank you, Pat. Motion carried. Discussion items, the update of the current water projects,
Sorry.
Glassy Farm, change case in the Knievel Farm.
So Mayor, just or Mayor and Trustees, just a couple general updates. First of all, on the Glassy farm that we have in Fort Morgan, the engineers have been working for a little bit of while, just trying to get everything surrounded around our hands around Fort Morgan because they haven't received a change case in the past. So the filings for the water court are probably in a 95% completion, and the engineers have finished up their analysis for the use of the water. We kind of set that on the back burner when we were working on some of the other projects, but they had some time. So with that said, this process is we must present our court case over to the Fort Morgan Ditch Board and hopefully work with them to resolve any issues and any problems. And there's also, I believe, another water entity that has just filed the first one with them as well, that they're going to be taking their shares through, quite a amount of larger shares. So we kind of got a little bit of feedback what's going on there. And so anyway, so that's prepping and ready to go. So hopefully here in the next month or so, then once that gets filed, then we can go ahead and put an application in for temporary use and kind of finish up that project. That's a CCWB project. So probably the next meeting I'll have a little bit more information and a little more specifics on that so we can home in really what's going to go on there. The drainage is so good there that the Og Pond that we originally had planned, I think was 15 or 20 acres, that they feel a 3-acre bottom's going to get it just fine. It's almost pure gravel under it. Then as we talked, the other process would be put a well down south by the road, then bring the water up, and we're just going to inject it into the other well when they did the testing. They recommended about 1,200 gallons per minute, but they thought it could handle 2,000 to 3,000 gallons a minute with no problem going through there to retime some of the water. So all the testing, everything has been done, and everything is really looking pretty good for out there. So we just need to get the process started on the applications for that. The other thing I just kind of want to mention to you, it really hasn't been done. As you know, Colorado kind of had a new water plan that kind of deals with trying to still utilize water for farming when it's not needed for severe droughts, when towns need it for augmentation. And we're looking and exploring to see what that would look like after the Knievel farm with our agreement with Central and what we do there for our plans. We're still going to have some pretty good chunks of land left over that are in the flat parts, especially in the center pivot circle. So I just asked the engineers to do a quick look at that, and the attorney just do a quick look at that to see what that'd be like if we brought one of those pivots back online, so we can lease that land for farming or do something else with it in the future, the parts that we aren't using. Since we're doing the change case anyway, you know, why not try to maximize what's there? So I'll have a little bit of information on that and kind of what that would look like for you guys, probably at the next meeting as well. Then let you know, a couple of meetings ago, you guys approved a IGA with Central, and before that is signed, we're just trying to get the operating agreement figured out, so that how the wells get turned on, who runs them, how does the electricity get paid, and what that looks like. So we've been working pretty heavily on that. We have a meeting set up, I think, on the 10th, which is a day before the meeting, to make sure everything's finalized. So I probably will be sending you a draft in your packet before the next meeting, but it'll be the day of the board meeting. I probably will have the final, assuming we get everything worked out on that final operating agreement, so that can be finalized with Central on that process. So that's all I have on those particular items. Obviously, we got some more water stuff coming up. Any questions on those? Oh, something very important happened too. Central got its court case approved for their section. So basically, we're just going to piggyback with all the same terms, and the terms are pretty decent. There was one little thing in there, but they got an allocation for 30,000 acre feet of water. I believe they're looking at maybe 8 to 10 going to our farm. A good portion of it, but yeah, they were able to get a 30,000 per year allocation for their well fields, and so they went to the last minute for settling. There was one front range that kind of took them all the way and kind of argued stuff, but you know, so far the terms look kind of what we've been seeing, a little bit stricter than what our stuff was from original court case, but pretty acceptable. So that's pretty well going to be the standard what our goes in under those same terms when we have to do our wells.
All right, any questions for Paul? Okay, move on to the next item, the review of the water project.
Take one and pass her down. So we had discussion of this at the last meeting, and the board instructed to bring all this back to this meeting so we can finish this conversation on our water and our wastewater augmentation project. So I'm throwing some information back in front of you. I did a little executive summary just to break the terms down, because I know some of the paperwork gets pretty long in there. So the first water project we're going to discuss tonight is the potable water project, and the total project cost is $8,189,000. So within that project, it includes replacing undersized distribution pipe in town. It includes a 500,000 gallon elevated storage tank, including the site work and concrete, and that gets tied into our existing tank. Radio read water meters we still have many water meters that are in the 15 to 20 plus years of age in town that we're still using. So that would replace all those out within the town. Masonry and HVAC for building, pre-treatment filters, and includes one RO skid in the piping, so we can have the Kiowa water as a backup source, and it also could take care, if we had to in emergency, RO the South Platte water. Electronic water blending, so there's going to be electronic sensors that read nitrates, read manganese, and everything involved, and so we can electronically kind of control and monitor the percentage that we want to blend with, and if we RO the Kiowa water, we can keep it at a percentage that's advantageous, that reduces electricity and cost. 1,000 gallon per minute pumps with VFDs and generator, new water pipeline from the Kiowa wells, so we can pull that over here. It has an $860,000 in contingency. It includes the cost of the land purchase, which is the land we bought next to Teets Park, so that'll be a reimbursement to the town. Engineer and material testing, and it also includes $750,000 in legal fees for our water court applications, which some of that we've already expended, would be reimbursable under that project. Interest and financing. So of that project cost, the next thing you go down on the financing, the town of Wiggins will have to put $159,000 cash into the project, and includes a grant for $1,970,000 and a loan for $6,030,000. While the project is being constructed, We would have interim financing that would be through a third-party bank that's not USDA. Right now, it's basically CoBank is the one pretty well doing all these. So they would issue a loan for $6,030,000. Terms would be 36 months for 3 years for the time of construction. It'll be a monthly LIBOR plus 1.6%. At the last meeting, I gave you guys a graph where the LIBOR is floating out, so it mainly floats around 4%, 4.5%. It'll be a non-taxable bond, so it's a little bit better rate when they write that up together. Then the final takeout financing on the $6,030,000 is a 40-year fixed term, and it has a rate of 3.125%, which is $22,070 per month. The next page has a more breakdown, a more detailed breakdown for you to review. It has, manholes, the piping in there, and just how things are being broken down. It does include the interest during the time that we're doing it. We'll get reimbursed all the interest that we have to pay for the temporary loan for the town. It also, like I mentioned, we have contingency built into this project. We have contractor overhead and profit built into it. The design and permitting is at 10%. The construction admin, it has a person that'll be here full-time monitoring the construction that will not be a town employee. It'll be a third party that will do the construction monitoring. As I mentioned, legal fees and water engineering, and the materials testing. You can see we have this broken down into 2 obligations, and so basically there will be 2 smaller loan interests, so that allows us to go back for reimbursement once the first obligation is done. And the reason we did that is so they can get a head start. The first phase, basically, as you would call it, the first obligation would be things related to the storage tank. That process is running anywhere from 2.5 to 3 years to get built, so it almost takes the entire time to do it from start to finish once we get going on it. So you'd have some engineering done first, then we'd go into the financing for the construction. It's mainly just getting a hold of steel is a little bit difficult in time right now. Then you got to do the approvals from Colorado Department of Health, which are running about 6+ months right now once you get the design done. So that allows that to get started. Then you can jump into the next phase because we really don't need any of the other stuff done until the tower's getting near the end. So you can do that, the remaining obligation here too. Then the final pages you have in front of you is just what you guys have already had and probably read multiple times, is actual breakdown and note from USDA that has all the fine-tuned clarity about what our obligations are and things along that line. So as we discussed and mentioned at the other meeting, obviously we still have needs for redundancy. We still have needs. The water tower is obviously becoming a bigger issue for water storage. Just having enough fire flows for the town. We can already use another 180,000 gallons of storage. This kind of takes care of the town up to around 3+ thousand people going forward. We currently are having days where our water pump and RO is running about 23 hours a day, just on busy hot days, just to give you some things of where we're at.
How many water meters do we have in town?
We are probably at about, I would say, between 560 and 570 now. I looked a month ago and it's at 550 before all the apartments started kicking in.
How many was that?
Probably around 560 is where we're at total. That includes commercial and residential. Sound about right, Pat?
I haven't looked at it since, it's been a while.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at.
We're in the works of getting water meters on the park too, right?
We would pull it out of there.
So how does this work? We're taking water from Kiowa and we're blending it with South Platte.
So the RO, how that would work is, you're specifically saying the RO, or are you just asking how we're currently working now?
No, how is this system gonna work that?
Okay, so right now, we still have the RO system, everything runs just like it is. So what will happen, right now, the water that comes from the South Platte goes straight into the 500,000 gallon tank.
The elevated one.
Well, no, right now it goes, I'm just saying.
I know where it goes
right
now,
now,
yeah.
So to kind of explain it, what will happen, it will come into a new building first. And from that new building, there will be another RO. So if we choose to turn on the old wells, which still that isn't always functional to run, it'd be more of a backup system, we could blend if we needed to, or we can just use that water if we needed to. I mean, with all the manganese, it would be kind of hard on all the filters. After that, that pipe splits, and it'll have a motor on it. One pipe's gonna go to the ground tank, and the other one's gonna go to the elevated tank. And how this will be set up is primarily it'll go to the ground tank, then be pumped up into the elevated tank. But we have it so we can run the water and either have one tank empty and one tank full, or have them both full. And that way, if we had to do repairs on a tank, we can move the water to both tanks. So we're gonna have controls of which tank we fill. So what you would see in the winter time, because with 1 million gallons of storage, actually it's too much storage, and your water will get stagnant, your residual chlorines will start diminishing, and so we would keep, probably 600,000 gallons, keep, maybe 100,000 gallons in the ground tank and elevate everything else. But all the primary water, at the end of the day, if it goes into the ground tank first, it will then be pumped up the elevated tank, and all the water going to our citizens and to all the meters will come out of the elevated tank. The system is also designed and set up in a way, if something happened, say there was a high demand for pressure, we had a fire, major fire go on, there was 3 8-inch things open. If the pressure drops below a certain point, it's gonna kick on the ground tank pumps. We're still gonna have pumps there that could pump directly into the water lines to help keep pressure, to keep up with fire flows. So we'll have gravity coming down, because with a lot of 8-inch lines, you can lose pressure quickly if you have a lot of hydrants open, especially if they're feeding off 2 different mains in an area. So we're gonna try to, as they do it, we design it, we need diversity in it, we need redundancy in it, and we just need lots of options. So if we need to fill one, or if we need to work them both together, that everything works together, then of course, it'll all be run off a new SCADA system. So staff can work it and watch it, monitor it off its phones. Did I answer that?
Very
That where
good.
you were going? Okay.
Can the town afford it?
It's gonna have to find a way to afford it, is gonna be one of the problems. Originally when we designed this, when we were looking at the revenues, for future development and growth, and that was one of the ways of paying it, keeping 30 houses going for the next 10 or 15 years. And like when we shared the last development going through, it ended up with $19 million in revenues that went through the town. So now we don't have those. So it's gonna take, the board's gonna have to find some creative ways over the next 3 years to really keep the funds moving in and coming in, and you're gonna have to deal with rates if you're not gonna have the houses pay for it from the new growth. You're gonna have to deal with rates. It's just gonna be a part of it.
And that,
But we were
that's
basing it off
exactly-
of-
That's exactly why we need an impact fee on.
Exactly.
But if we were actually seriously basing this payment off of the economy staying strong and only building houses, that was our mistake. We never should have ever based it off of that, because you're trying to make sure that the economy is gonna stay strong and houses are gonna keep going for the next 10 years, 40 years. It's never gonna happen. That's why I kept saying that we can't base it off the housing, because housing will stop. You can shake your head out there all you want, but housing will stop. So what it is, it comes down to $39.41 a meter, the payment. This payment right here for this $22,070 a month is $39.41 a meter. If we keep 560 meters flowing and the economy don't crash and people move out of this little town. Because that's the case, then the people that do stay here, that fee goes up and up and up. So we should not base it off of houses. We base it off of what income we have.
Whether somebody's living in a house, they're still gonna pay a meter charge.
Not if they're foreclosed and not living there.
Well, then we put a lien on the house, and that's how the town gets reimbursed. That's in our ordinance. So
Yeah, but
we
if
do
you're a bank,
have that ability. So I think our 560 is pretty steady.
if you're a bank, you can actually, they voted themselves when Obama gave them their little bailouts and all that. They voted they don't have to pay property taxes, they don't have to pay water fees, they don't have to keep heat on, they don't have to do any of that. They're a bank. They got special rules and regulations for them.
Any other comments?
I personally don't wanna do anything until we have an audit. I wanna know where we're sitting on our audit. And then, let's find out how much money we got.
Anybody else? Any other comments, Paul?
No, I mean, I just come back to, obviously, everybody knows the need's there. I mean, you gotta put your head in the sand not to know we have the need, and it does. It's gonna find a creative way of taking care of and affording it. As I mentioned, impact fee or not, I mean, the town has had one developer in the last 20 years come to the town of Wiggins and say, we're willing to build houses here. And that developer, for the fees that have been thrown out here, said, we will not build here for that. And so I think there's room for some fees. I come back to, it's gonna have to be reasonable, but it's the reality where we're at. There's been one developer here in 20 years, and it's like anything else. They're gonna go where they can sell the most houses and build quick. And I understand Evans has and all that. And like I said, I think there's room for some.
Kingsburg is building now. They have,
Yeah.
what, $15,000 impact fee?
Mhm.
Now they're starting to
Yep.
pick up.
They've been stagnant for many, many years.
I know,
It takes
Paul.
time. It does. And I agree with you. I mean, they're kinda going. It's just, I think you just gotta wait for reality of what the market is saying and what the people that are willing to do it versus what we can get. And,
Had the previous
and
board,
I think there is room for it, so.
had the previous board not gave everything away, we'd have a little extra money.
I take it, that's an absolute false statement. They didn't give everything away.
We gave
Kiowa
a lot
Park
away.
put the roads in, Kiowa Park put their own water lines in, they did all their own development.
They should've ran the
That-
line
that-
extension, they should've put in a lift pump.
And
should've
that's
put in
not
a
giving
water
anything
extension.
away.
Jeff, he's talking, please.
The town did put in the lift station, and the town put a sewer and water line in, that they prepaid all their fees in order for us to put that in. That extended for both developments and got the project going, because that's what it took to get it in. Just as this board has talked about giving breaks for commercial development, because we want to get the first one in. There's nothing different from that. That's what it took when we've been stagnant for 20 years. And the result is, at that time they did that, we had $600,000 in the bank. We were looking at increasing water rates drastically, and now we got $2.5 million in the bank and growing and expanding. And we've increased our water budget, doubled since those time. And that's keeping things going. We didn't have water back then when we started this. We were able to take the funds we got from our initial payment and work the lease out with Castle Rock. And at the time, we were still mixing Kiowa Bijou water with the town, and people had black toilets. So there's been twofold benefits to everybody in the town. We're getting a new park that was donated by $100 plus $20,000 from the developers as we're getting that in.
They should've
So-
done the whole park, everything.
So, again, I need to speak without you jumping, arguing.
Jeff,
You
give
can
him a
you can
chance to
speak,
talk,
okay?
please.
I'm not trying to have an argument. I'm trying to say what's happening, because when we gave everything away, that's just that's not a true statement. The town has greatly benefit from it. And anybody can go and look at the 14 audit, and we were done in 14. The town had not enough revenue to keep up with expenses, and that included 2 office staff people and 2 public works employees. We did not have the money, and we did not have water. Now the town turns on their tap, and they have water. And they have good, clean water, and it's coming from the South Platte, and it's coming from money we've been able to get from development to keep the system running. We didn't have the funds to run the system. We didn't have the funds to go through the court system. It was $750,000 to take our case through water court is what it took. And at the time, the town did not have the money to do that. It is because of the money we got from the development that they got it through. And now we don't have black water, and that's a benefit that development has created for the entire town.
That development did not bring that well here. That well was done before that development ever got started. That was done by
I did not
a
say
previous
that.
board. But how much did that line cost running out there?
First
much-
of all,
how much
I'm
did the
gonna
line
correct-
cost?
I'm gonna correct that statement. I did not say that development paid for the well. It's allowed us to get the augmentation water, run the well. When we had here, our pumping allocation was, I think, was about 90 or 100 acre feet is all we could pump water out of that well, when the town was demanding 180 acre feet.
Yeah, but we've got borrowed water. We don't even have our own water. Most of our water is borrowed out of Castle Rock. But to get back to, how much did that line cost? What'd we sell the land to them for? We pretty much got the land for free because we gave them 10 free water taps.
Yeah, and the water tap did turn around and reimburse to the town.
But we still
through
gave them away
development.
for free, and we got the land for what, 200,000, 275?
And so the line was, I don't know, 250, 300,000, somewhere there for the
For
whole
the
thing.
sewer.
For the sewer and water, then the Thomas has pitched in some too, so.
And the lift
But,
station.
I mean, what does it really matter at this point?
What does it matter? If we'd have had impact fees, then we could pay
But
for this water.
at
We
this
could pay for
point-
this out of the impact fees.
Jeff, please don't interrupt.
He gets to talk for 20 minutes. I
Don't
get to talk for
interrupt
2?
him when he's talking, please.
Really?
Do you want to leave the room?
You really, Charlie?
Now, you wanna let us run an orderly meeting. Now, you'll have your chance to talk when Paul's done, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anyway, I apologize as well. I talked over you as well, so. Whether you agree how it was done, what it was done, here we are now. And we have issues for water. So what was done in the past, you know, there was decisions made prior to development coming in that were not good decisions. I mean, that's obvious. You know, how the thing was put in, it didn't get put in with the right amount of money. They put too small of a pipeline, and there's been decisions made in the past that cost the town money. Someone running the sewer line under the railroad track in a metal pipe, you know, that we gotta take care of. There's been decisions that have been made that everybody doesn't agree were the best things, but that's probably what they had to do at the time to make things happen. So you gotta accept that, move on. But here we are today, and the town still has 20-year-old water meters. It has 2 and 4 inch water lines running to people's houses, that we don't have good fire flows on some of the hydrants, and we need a water storage tank. That's just the reality of it. We can't, and if we don't do a water storage tank and you don't move forward, we're gonna have to do something immediately to rebuild what we got. We're running on Commodore 64 computers in there. It needs to be updated. The wells need to be done. And we're not gonna get commercial development until we do it, because they're high water users. We're gonna have to supply water. They're gonna have to have water flows and fire flows to make that happen. And, you know, it's the same thing with the sewer system. Everybody says we want industrial, we want industrial. I would love industrial. You realize if a nice big industrial comes in town of Wiggins right now, I have to say no. 0, no. 1, we don't have enough water to supply them, depending on what their uses are. 2, our sewer plant is not permitted for any industrial users. And it won't get permitted because they can't handle the BOD loads. So industrial's out of the limits for the town of Wiggins right now. It can't happen. And that's a problem if you want industrial and growth. That's all I have.
Now, if you want the floor, Jeff, you're welcome to speak.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
No, I think I said my piece.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking too, though, in the last 20 years, though, this town was making no money where it couldn't do nothing at all, too, Jeff. And by having this somewhat growth, we have money to work with now to start planning other things. Because I remember about 6 years ago when we did the first 4th of July, we almost lost that GOCO grant, from what I understood, for that park, and the park was dying. If we didn't start getting any money, and wouldn't we have had to have repaid that if we didn't honor our side of the contract?
Yeah, but that was done with a lot of bad management. That GOCO grant was done by a lot of bad management.
And then with that bad management, we had to find something to try to get that fixed, and that, or else that would have cost the town money there too.
But see, I know we got money. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys is when you get a development, yeah, you get a good check right up front. But then in 20 years from now, you don't have that money anymore, Chris. That development will end up costing you money. Like I said, if you don't believe me, you can go into the Department of Interior and you can look all the figures up for yourself. A housing development costs you, for every dollar you get off taxes, costs you $1.50 to maintain. Okay, so yeah, if we're gonna do anything, probably right now would be the best time to do it. Use the money that we've got off that development to erect our water tower and all that, and hopefully get ourselves to get some businesses in this town, because that's where you make your money. Housing developments don't make you any money. They cost you money. You get money in the beginning, but that doesn't last you for
But
the long term.
I
That's what I'm trying
understand,
to
and it
say.
takes money to make money, and you gotta have something appealing for those businesses to wanna come in here too, right?
Yeah, but right now, businesses are not gonna come to Wiggins because we got a high mill levy. If we could get to talk to some businesses and tell them we can negotiate our mill levy with them, then we can start, attracting more business. That's why businesses don't come to Wiggins, because our property taxes are so high.
So what would you recommend we offer them to make it appealing for the businesses to come down here?
Property tax.
Property taxes.
So how do you do that? Just question.
Well,
Because the town of Wiggins mill levy is only 0.32, which is a small chunk.
But our mill levy is one of the highest in
Yeah,
the county
it goes-
and also in the state.
It goes to the school, but if you look at the dollars that they
Well,
actually
the
pay.
fire,
I mean, the
fire
school-
department gets a pretty good chunk of it too.
Yeah, but we can't negotiate that.
We can, actually. I talked to the tax assessor. We can negotiate our mill levies.
They
'Cause
have
we
to
we can write in special ordinances for that particular mill levy for that particular business. We can give them a 20 years tax freeze on their property tax if we choose to.
We can as a city, but each individual district would have to waive it. We don't have, the only way you can waive it is by doing a metropolitan district and setting up tax increment financing, which the schools are exempt from that. And when Governor Hickenlooper 2 years ago signed a new bill that would require approval from all the districts in order for them to participate in that. So,
But I still think it could be done,
yeah.
because they're doing it all over the place.
There's some possibilities.
Okay, so let's say we do some with the mill levy to get businesses in here. Now, what they're gonna look for is people they're able to employ and how much foot traffic are they gonna get through in order to sustain their business. So how would we do that if we don't have enough people in here to help sustain their business?
Oh, we do. We got enough traffic flow through here. We got enough to sustain some businesses. You got a very busy highway out here. You got a very busy highway over there. You got a very busy highway right there. You have enough traffic flow. You don't have to. I don't want to hear that rooftop thing. I'm sick of the rooftop thing, because with rooftops, you also come with the other side of it. Contaminated water, contaminated river waters. The more rooftops you get, the more asphalt you put, the more your TDS goes up, the more your river, everything goes up. You gotta remember that. It's benefit of money. It's also a benefit, or the other word I'm looking for. It's detrimental to your economy at the same time, and your water, your sewer, everything.
Chris, you gotta start
It's a nice balance. You gotta find
Well,
a good
and
balance.
that's what I'm trying to see, the
If all you
balance,
have is
'cause-
houses, you're just gonna be a bedroom community, yes? That's all we've been. That's all we've ever been. That's all that's ever came here is housing development, housing development, housing development. We have yet to attract any businesses, and don't tell me it's because we didn't have rooftops. It's because we don't have the right salesmen out there selling Wiggins for a business.
And see what goes in my head too is like how does a town first start?
Usually businesses and a railroad, an infrastructure, a major highway. That's what brings people into a town. That's what brought Wiggins, was that right there, that crossing right there. That's what made Wiggins. It was the railroad. But, to get a little off point here, I'm just saying that if we're gonna do something, yeah, probably now would be the best time. Let's just hope that we can maintain this, so we don't have to raise water rates. Because if we don't maintain this, this figure goes up per house.
Believe me, I want to maintain too, because I don't want no higher water rates myself.
So if we're gonna do this, we gotta make sure that we keep this 560 in this town. So even if the economy crashes, we gotta make sure they don't move. Can you do that?
Well, it's up to the people if they.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
And also too, I was just thinking, hopefully we get more of these houses done, and that helps spread that cost too, so we're not paying that way. You say 39 something.
I was at that meeting when that was a promise. Just that development alone was a promise, that if we'd done that development, it would actually technically lower our meter rates. I was at this meeting, sitting right there, when I was told that if we got that development, the shared cost could eventually maybe even lower the cost. Now, we've got that development, and I'm hearing because we didn't get another development, now we're gonna have to raise rates. So if we don't get that development, we're gonna have to raise rates.
I think
I
some
don't
of
like
those
to hear
rates
that.
too were because of the new mandates that were being put on all the towns around too, that we have to fix, new TDS levels for the town as well. So if we didn't have that other growth, that probably would have been a bigger bill we had to pay once these FDA things came up into play.
But the more meters, the higher the TD is too.
But
The more
then,
people
Chris,
dumping into it.
can you account for the people that have purchased homes out there and now, 2 years later, they're moving out? Why? They bought a house out there when it was starting to go up, and now all of a sudden they're bailing. We've seen this on Highway 52. Houses were going up right and left on 52. I remember when all that down south was farmland, and now all of a sudden it's house, house, house. And you know what? A year later, for sale, for sale, for sale. Because people come out here with the idea that, oh, the country's cool to live in. But it takes me 35 minutes to drive to the store? No. People just don't get it, what it's like to live out here. And they can't accept it, so they have to go move someplace else where they can.
Paul, do you have any idea what the occupancy rate is out here right now, Kyle Park? Or the vacancy rate, let's put it that way.
I know we issued more permits this year than any other year, so I assume they wouldn't build if they're not selling.
And I've been through there, and the houses I've seen that are up for sale are contractors that are actually building to sell them. They build them beforehand.
I think there's 12 for sale right now.
And I actually know a few of those contractors that are actually building those They're building them and selling them. Every time I go out there on a delivery or something like that, he's talking to somebody interested in buying the home.
Yeah, but Chris, I also talked to somebody who said that Jamie is making incentives because nobody wants to buy the houses.
The only thing that I've got concerned is I got a couple people that notify me that they're pulling out because of the developer.
Yeah,
A couple of our builders will be moving out soon because of the developer. That's what I've been told.
there's so many factors.
So if we lose a couple of our builders, then what do we got?
I know one of the builders bought another 10 lots, I think it was, getting ready to build people that want them out there.
So
I
you
don't know.
fill them up and fine, but if you don't, you're
Like I
set the house.
This, now would probably be the best time to do it. Let's just hope, if we do it, that,
You gonna make that a motion, Jeff?
I don't think this is on the table to be voted on.
I have it as a discussion, but I need direction to start the stuff going with the bank, the co-bank, to put the package together and put the ordinances together, cause time is starting to be of the essence.
When you say we was gonna have our audit, you thought?
He's gonna, he emailed me, he's gonna try to make the next meeting, but he has to confirm the time, he may have one other appointment.
Any other comments? Anything else, Paul?
That's all I have. I just kinda come back to the point where we need to make direction on what to do, cause you got a 3-year project and we're already a year past on this thing, so there's not a lot of time before you lose your grant money.
Kind of time frame we got?
Let's see, this was written in 18, we're a year, 3.5 year. I mean, we're down to, I would say, a couple months for to make the decision. You got a 3.5 year project with engineering. And you got a 5-year total project and we're already past 1 year.
Well, I think let's hear what the audit has to say and go from there.
I agree with that.
Anybody else?
Chris?
So if we wait for the audit, what would that do for us on this?
I mean, I guess throw the question that way. I mean, I already know what the audit says, so I kinda did a general recap last night for you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna jump down to the next discussion item, Charlie, then we'll come back and revisit both of these. So this is the wastewater project phase 1. Total cost is $10,811,000. So it's under wastewater just because of how the USDA was written, but it has a lot of water features in it. So it includes the part of the land purchase price, which is $2,255,000, with the town paying the remainder or refinancing the remainder. And the reason that is we have, I believe, 200 acres that we can justify was being used for the project on there, so they'll finance that project. So we do have obviously some excess land we can lease or sell. Includes a raw water pipeline from you to the river, so we can get water directly to the river or water back from the river. It includes the first 65-acre recharge pond. It does include, this is at the very end of the phase, as you go through a lift station that would be put at the sewer plant. So we can move the water out of where it's at, the effluent water out, which we're gonna have to do no matter what, because we have a TDS violation, and we've talked about in TAIL, we're not gonna be able to discharge that TDS for many more years where it's currently at, and we can't make the TDS work at its current location. All the electrical controls, I think I got that contingency. Yeah, I did have a $2 million contingency. Let me check that real quick. I'm sorry, I put the wrong contingency number. That's $1,000,018 in contingency. It also includes engineering, materials, testing, legal fees, and for water court, again, that gets on top of the $750 we got, so it gives basically enough to get the whole project in with the project we're working with Central through water court. So under this $10 million, the applicant, us, would be, got a fly buzz me, would pay $53,000. We received a grant in the amount of $4,360,000. And we're popping in a DOLA matching grant for $800,000, which they've been involved in this project in the beginning. And then your final loan is $5,568,000. The interim financing would look very much like the same one. They would finance the amount that's financing. Again, I'm sorry, I got a little typo there. It's the the first one should have been 5233 on the loan amount and not 56. So probable financing the 5223, 36-month term again, and it'll be LIBOR plus 1.6%, which is a 4% for the interim financing. All the financing costs are recoverable through the grant and through the loan through USDA. So your final permanent amount of financing is $5,223,000, as we talked about. It'll be a 40-year fixed term at 2.125%. We got a more advantageous rate on that one, and with the final payment of $17,000 for the project. Currently, as you guys know, you guys have voted to work with Central and authorized $250,000 to go toward that project. So this is kind of a joint project to do with them as we're doing that. So that gives us the legal fees to do that, and also puts our augmentation pond in place. Obviously this has been, again, in the planning stages for a while. This will allow the town to have 3,000 plus additional acre feet of water to augment through the deal that we're working with Central. Then it also allows to retime our 800 acre feet we're losing down the river as well through that process, plus any additional free river credits we have or other waters that we have in the river. The timing on this one, obviously discussion of timing, the issue we got coming up is obviously this took a little bit longer getting the loan grant process through, just because of stuff going on in DC and changes going on. We finally got it through. It's a pretty incredible grant amount match for the project. The town currently does have a note for the Bank of West for the land, which is $2,000,008, which this takes out. That note is due at the end of the year, and so something needs to get done on this project to do that.
Why did you spend that much on land? That's what I'd like to know. That just blows me away.
First of all, not I, it's when the board met, and that was the
That's
direction.
what I'm saying. What was that board thinking?
This board was, and I'll tell you, this board was working on plan on growth. The goal was to get to 3,000 to 4,000.
At a cost?
Excuse me, again,
Pat, please.
please. And it was working to get to 3,000 to 4,000 residents, and this provided us the water to do it. And then also through this process, this board, I believe unanimously, including you, voted to work with Central and put $250,000 into the project to make it happen. So
For augmentation, I'll go along with it.
Yeah.
But
I'm
that's
not
it.
gonna build no
That was-
wastewater plant
So
6.5
if
miles away.
this does not include the wastewater treatment plant.
But if we vote yes on this, don't we commit ourselves to the rest of the,
They're all separate phases that would have to be funded. So if you didn't want to do the wastewater treatment plant there, you would have to redo the environmental assessment and put it in the new location you want. It does include the water pumps, because we know we have the TDS problem. We're gonna have to get the water, even if we keep this one for another 5 years, we're gonna have to get the water out of there.
well, yeah, but I mean, I think that personally, if we're gonna upgrade our sewer, we just upgrade our sewer at the location that it's at, pump to that side of the interstate, put ourselves, delayed, long-term, augmentation ponds on the interstate, and then from there, run a pipeline to the property at Knievel's and time on our faster timed, stations, and I think we could do that for a whole lot less money.
So,
A whole lot less money.
with that said, that's really not even on the table.
No.
But I want to be clear, being how the conversations went with the board, I put that in the very last phase. The very last obligation is when you deal with the sewer plant. So this phase is pretty much, well, I mean, you got the breakdown. This phase is augmentation ponds, land purchase, legal fees, materials, some pipelines on the Knievel property to move the water to different augmentation ponds, and that well, and then the sewer pumps here to move the water somewhere. It doesn't include any of the piping where we're moving it to yet. That's in the next obligation that would follow.
How many acres is on the Knievel farm?
700.
Okay. How many acres do we need for augmentation ponds? For the plan that we have right now, how many acres?
I mean, right now in our plan, because, you know, it shows out a 20-year plan in our capital plan, we got 500 acres set aside total, and we're sharing some of that with Central.
So we want to use 500 acres of that for augmentation ponds?
I mean, it's not a full 500, you're gonna have little pieces all over the place of augmentation ponds. So at some point, when it's fully built and everything's financed, you could go through and sell excess off or lease excess off. You know, we've had some discussions with, solar companies as well, you know, for leasing those lands, and, you know, when they get they like the site, they just haven't won the RFPs yet, but the site's very advantageous because it has a tri-state and a WAPA line right there, so they can get access to just about anywhere in Colorado.
May I ask where we're getting the water that's going into the audit plant?
You don't want your question. So, we are working, we have an agreement that the board approved to work with Central, on their Walker Wellfield project, where we got pumps being built on the river that they're gonna build, that we're gonna be an 8% partner in. So that would allow us up to 3,000 acre feet of water to pump in, during free river time like this year, and been easy to get. I think we have it at 10 CFS. I think it was what we can pull, a maximum of 10 CFS, which is like a 14-inch pipe going in. Then we also, last year, for instance, we had 800 acre feet of water that went down the river. We lost down in Nebraska because we couldn't retime it. We can pull that water up. The year before that, we had 900 acre feet of water we lost down the river. So this is just extra augmentation because we've been augmenting a lot of water and putting in during these wet season and been very aggressive with it. And that's allowed us to build a lot of excess credits up. So what we're trying to do is get all this water retimed so it's there when we need it, and also obviously available to sell when we can. And hopefully help some farmers out in the area and other businesses and things that need water.
And how many acre feet of water is the water engineer project that we're gonna get out of Morgan Ditch?
I would have to go back and look. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's in the 80 range or something, 60 to 80, somewhere in there. Yep.
What
And
did we buy
the-
Knievels for? I don't remember.
2.855.
You said something, Pat?
No, I just said unbelievable, that's all.
Any other questions for Paul? Any other comments on the project?
No, I would just kind of say, when you look down the breakdown of all the cost, depending on how you want to frame it, it's all how you look at that glass, half empty, half full. But basically with the grant, you can say the land's free and we're building the augmentation ponds and take care of the engineering, because that's what it is. We got $4,600,000, but yes, we got to build the pipes and build the grants on the property. But we got a grant for $4.6 million, 4.3, sorry.
Okay.
So if the board doesn't, we got about 3.5 months to figure out what we're gonna do with Bank of West. If the board doesn't go forward with this, I need instructions on what you wanna do, to satisfy Bank of West. So, don't have, obviously, the cash to pay them. If we refinance it, they're probably gonna do it with land, principal and interest. And, I did a quick calculation, and that amount is gonna end up about $4,000 or $5,000 more than what the $10 million project is.
Any other questions? Okay.
But at the end of the day, I still need to figure out what the board wants to do on this stuff. I mean, I guess if you wait till September, that's gonna be your last EHA to make a decision.
Let the old board pay for it.
That's what I think too. But hey, I was on that board, dang it.
Okay, moving right along.
So do you guys wanna wait till September? I mean, if you're not gonna do it, just say now so we can get
Once
this-
again,
get this done.
let's hear the audit first and then go from there.
Okay, Morgan Strong Recreation District.
So it's the Morgan Strong packet's coming around to you. As you know, Morgan Strong came and did a presentation here. They've got permission to ask the voters to form a special rec district. It's going to go to the ballot in November. The rec district is going to be independent. They're going to, if they get approval, they're going to build their own facilities. And there's a lot of operational questions of how that's going to work together. If you'll turn to the green page, please. So we're kind of at the bottom there. So the goal is Wiggins is in the first phase of the project, so is Fort Morgan, there's multiple phases. And obviously, if we're gonna pass a tax, we wanna get the best bang for the buck. It'll be a sales tax that is passed. And Fort Morgan's looking at doing an indoor pool and participating with that. Brush wants to rehab their current pool that they have and put slides in and do some improvements they have out there. And, you know, just kind of talking with everybody in general, you know, we've always heard we need meeting space and a field house and some rec areas like that. I also mentioned, you know, additional baseball fields at some time. However, there's another funding source I can visit with you on that. That would be pretty easy for baseball fields. But if you'll turn to the page that kind of has the diagram on there. So what they're proposing is, you know, obviously not going crazy with glass and stuff, but something that would fit in Wiggins, be modest. And, you know, my directions to them, we would want the most bang for the buck versus it just looking all cool on the outside as this was the past. And so it includes, I'm looking at kind of the diagram of the buildings, it includes a gymnasium with 2 courts and 1 full-size regulation court, locker rooms, mechanical rooms, admin buildings, multi-purpose, and a big lobby area. We had a phone meeting with them, and I told them I think there would probably be a strong interest from the town to include a workout gym in there with cardio stuff, some weight machines, things like that, because going back when CrossFit was here, it seemed to be pretty popular, and that would be a nice fit to add to our community. And then we talked about whatever we do, we want to leave room for plenty of expansion. So, you know, 10 years from now, we're like going, why did we put this and not think about it for expansion? So, you know, part of that design is how do we add a wing on here? How do we add a wing on here and still have kind of a continuous looking building? Morgan Strong's paying for the architects and the design. They're putting everything together, so it's not costing the town of Wiggins, us personally as a budget as you go through the process. Trying to figure out which I could read the final budget. And I'm sorry, I forgot, Pat, you might remember, I think they got about $5.6 million in the bond that would go directly to Wiggins if this was passed. Is what the total is. And that includes hard costs, soft costs, we talked about having a flexible gym where different activities could be in there, and you know, basketball, volleyball, had a concert or whatever anybody would want to do. You know, maybe could do roller skating or something. And the other thing we talked about is being a small town, and we have to drive to everything, and a lot of people don't drive to Fort Morgan, so they wait till the weekend to go. I go, you know, it'd really be nice to have this lobby, and again, I'm looking for direction. Have this lobby that would have a lot of different activities in there. Maybe it'll have a couple foosball tables, an air hockey table, maybe have some computers and a little fireplace and some couches with coffee where seniors want to come in, and there was a library hooked onto it in the future, you know, that could be coordinated in there. Maybe some video games for the kids, and you know, maybe a golf into an electronic thing. So I was throwing some ideas around to try to give that, you know, Wiggins, when they come, it would be nice to have kind of one shop place you can go to, and there'd be a lot of different things to do. The kids could go play, the parents could go work out, you can play a basketball game, and there'd just be all different places for activities. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I see some head shakes. I mean, that's generally, you know, kind of the direction I've been giving them, just understanding from what I've heard from citizens and people what they would like to see. Meeting room. It would be, you know, we kind of talked about how it could be separated where the gym could be locked off and they can still get in there to have a meeting or a conference or something like that. So yeah, just looking for, you know, at the end of the day, we want to make sure if this passed that Wiggins gets its share. and that we get something out of it. And Morgan Strong's been very good at working with Brush and the town of Wiggins and really listening to our input. It's going to have our spot on the ballot. So it'll be dedicated money, and if it passes, it's gonna go pretty quick. They literally want to get in and start breaking ground. If this passes in November, they're gonna do the bond instantly, and they wanna be able to go with building plans. So they wanna have a good feel for what we'd like to see at town. So, so really at this point, I'm just asking, Hank, give me a little more, you know, basically what you're seeing there is from my initial input to them. And with exception, I still would like to, and I'm not sure if that multi-purpose room, I don't think that's it, but my last meeting we had with them on the phone, I instructed them would like to get a workout facility in there. Any other thoughts of how you would like to see this when you walked in, kind of share some visions with me, you know, what would you see there?
Well, that multi-purpose room, we could like use it as like a rent out, like, you know, to a CrossFit gym or somebody that, because I know one of the individuals that bought a house out here at Kiowa Park, he actually, that's what he wanted to do. He's been looking for a building in Wiggins to start a gym. So, I mean, if we could provide that for him at a low rate, I mean, something that would be a benefit too.
Yeah,
So,
and I will say just real quick that the goal is right now how it's set up is all the staffing for this will be provided by Morgan Strong.
Okay.
And they're gonna work for the first 5 years in conjunction with the town. Scott Brush has, you know, great, you know, athletic department, they're fine, you know, keep them like, bring me somebody, I'm good, you know, but, so the goal is right now there will be a program director at every single facility, then one head person over all of them, then they'll each have, you know, various staff on activities. And they talked about, like, for instance, karate. They would hire a karate instructor, maybe part-time. He would rotate Brush for Morgan Wiggins, and, you know, you could go with them if you want to do an extra, come here, you know, and he would rotate through. You know, whatever, a yoga class, you know, they can use one instructor to rotate all three facilities because you have all that cost savings, basically, by working together with other communities. But, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
well, no, you're fine. Are we thinking about making as like a membership or like free? I mean, what's our?
So, yeah, it will be a rec district, so there will be a nominal user fee and you'd buy a member pass. It'll probably be similar to YMCA, like if you come in at $6, if you buy a pass for the family for 100 and something, they still haven't refined those numbers.
Okay.
So their goal is to use the bond basically to pay for the structures themselves, and there's a little bit left over to kind of pay for the overall management, then they would use the fees to pay for the programming within there. And their goal is too that, you know, they would basically take over. Their long-term plan is there's a little still, you know, everybody trying to figure out because, you know, everybody likes a little, want to control this and that. But their goal is like they would come in and run the baseball programs. They would run the adult softball program and rotate it between the cities and take care of basically all that programming even outside of the gym. And there's going to be about a 5 years transition for that. But that's the end goal is that they would run all these programs and rotate them through the cities based on demand and need. And, you know, volleyball league. They come play in Wiggins and go play the Fort Morgan teams, go play the Brush teams, and rotate through, and you get, you know, have 12 games. Everybody gets, you know, four home games. So that's their vision. And Allison has been very inclusive. We want to make this work. We want this to be exciting for the community. We just really want to, you know, make this be just something that everybody would be proud of and just have a great asset for the communities.
Yeah, I was also saying too, maybe a
Okay,
place
okay.
too where people can like rent it out for parties or something as well.
Sure, yeah, I mean, and that's what that multi-purpose room, really, they said they could be rented out for a party room, so someone to come in and do some stuff on that, and, you know, so I think, you know, I think they'll run it to try to maximize what they're doing there and abilities they have in there. So the actual operation, you know, really haven't got that, we're really just focused on facilities right now of, you know, it basically, you guys think we're in the right direction here of what we wanna do with this 5.6 million.
Paul?
Yes, and I say, yeah, I was just wanted to finish asking board members if everybody feels that way.
Looks real nice.
Yes,
You have a question?
So Fort Morgan and Brush would be involved in this as well as Wiggins?
so it is actually going to be a special district. So it's the same thing as our Wiggins Fire Department. They will have their own board, their own governing body, and it's set up where each area has representation on the board. So we have an area of Wiggins that goes to Hoyt and a little bit up to Orchard in that area. And that's the Wiggins, and they have some Fort Morgan directors, and there's a couple directors at large, and lost my thought there. So they would be independent of the board. So they would come to the board, or we would go to them to communicate our ideas and our thoughts, and it would be their job to execute. So it won't put any burden on town staff, onto town finances on that line. They would ask for a land donation, obviously.
I think it's a absolutely fabulous idea had we had paved streets and a fully functioning police department. But we don't have those things, so why do we want that? I mean, I know somebody that lived here 30 years ago, and they're in awe that we still have dirt streets.
I know.
In awe. I don't care about all those bells and whistles. I want streets and sidewalks. That's why people move out to Kiowa Park. So their cars don't get lost in the holes. The streets has never been a priority, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How much money is the town putting in this, Paul?
Our input would be the sales tax on our businesses when it's built. So, like I said, I believe it's a 1% sales tax, which would equate out to about $150,000 a year for, at current rate for, actually $130,000 a year for a $5.6 million building.
Would actually,
So basically other towns are paying for it at this point, is what it comes down to.
the town government wouldn't have any contribution to it.
They will ask for a land contribution, and, you know, they want enough to expand and, you know, do that, so a land contribution. I'm really pushing, I think the community should also punch in the water and the sewer and electricity, and the reason why I'm saying that as a contribution, because the pool in Fort Morgan will use a lot of that, and especially on the electricity end, and, it would allow for more money for programming if the town would punch at least that into the project, you know, because, you know, for a field house, it isn't gonna be a large amount. So that's the only, but right now, that really is not in there, you know, right now, they're showing it completely run by themselves. So we really don't have any, cash contributions in, upfront cash contributions, let's put it that way.
So this will be on the November ballot, right?
It will be on the November ballot, yep.
Countywide.
It is countywide. It is countywide.
Okay.
And the one thing was, you know, that was a big controversy early on, was, you know, who's gonna get the staff, where it's gonna be from, and they're listening. They're like, we're gonna staff a program director in each place, so there's a point of contact that will run the programs, run the facilities. And we've had discussions, if, you know, there's no programming, no stuff going on, you know, that, you know, there needs to be something in the IGA where towns can utilize the facilities or buildings for special events and things along that line too.
Did they get it passed with the commissioners that we have equal representation at all 3 districts, correct?
Yes, and actually the judge had to sign off on that. The original one, the judge made him go back and rechange a few of the boundary lines, because it's very controlled by state statute how those boundaries have to be drawn to have equal representation. So it's actually been looked at by a judge and approved by the judge.
Okay.
So yeah, that's always the biggest concern. But you know, Brushville's the same way too. You know,
Well, when you live in Morgan
sure
County,
they have representation, and we do, because, you know, that always hasn't happened in the past. I can tell you, the people that are putting this together and the heart of the people that are putting together, they really want to make this just be a win-win from the county, and not a thing where people pull, that everybody gets something great, and it's something that we keep building on in the future.
If you lived in Morgan County long enough, it's just Fort Morgan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, Morgan County's Fort Morgan.
That's
I mean,
why he's put it.
so,
And at the last meeting that I attended, I had attended a board meeting, but I hadn't attended the meetings with all the different cities. I enjoyed the fact that Brush stood up and said, no, we're not doing this because of Fort Morgan. We want to do it because we are on our own, and that's what Wiggins is here for at the table. They want, and they stated very clearly, everything has gone to Fort Morgan in the past, and we want to make sure our voice is heard. So that's why we in Brush have really been attending these meetings and making sure our voices are heard. It's been very eye-opening.
if there's a county commissioner listening right now, when you get close to Morgan, the roads get better. Just saying.
Yeah.
I think it was about 30-some years ago, they tried to get a rec district countywide, and at that point in time, there was gonna be one facility, and the argument was between Is it gonna be in Brush? Is it gonna be in Fort Morgan? Is it gonna be between Brush and Fort Morgan? Or somewhere located between Wiggins and Fort Morgan? And because there was only one facility and the rest of the county felt like it was gonna be Fort Morgan, it failed. But this is a whole different concept where each area has their own facility, so I think it's got a lot more support right now than what it would have had 30 years ago for that reason.
Yep.
So I guess when it comes time to vote this fall,
Guess we'll find
see what
out.
happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, Jeff, and whenever you can, I'll let Ally know, you'll try to,
Yes,
and
I'm
when
trying
you
to
can,
get
I'll
that.
keep forwarding that stuff and I'll give her your email, but definitely try to make a point because
Yeah.
it's a good spot for a forceful voice, let's put it
Yeah.
that way. And I think you
It
would be
is.
good there.
It really is.
You think so, Paul? What gives you that idea?
Okay, I guess.
I said that politically correct.
Any other comments on the Morgan Strong? If not, we'll move to the resolutions and ordinances. First item is resolution 9-2019, a resolution approving a water agreement between the town of Wiggins and WGC Trading Company. Paul?
So, Mayor and Trustees, I know we've been talking about this for quite a while, and just behind the resolution, I had our one of our water attorneys put together just a memorandum, so it's very clear for everybody what's going on here. And just a quick note, I know you're used to seeing Rick Vendel as our water attorney. We still use Steve Jeffers with Line and Gaddis to go back and forth, and the reason why is oftentimes on this scenario, Rick can't legally do it under his ethics because he had a dealing with both of us in the past, and so he couldn't put the deal together. So we originally were at Stephen Jeffers and went to Rick Vendel, and so we jumped back and forth when they can't handle each other's cases. So this agreement is with WGC, which is a new LLC. It was originally Bullseye when we had conversations in executive. He will pay Wiggins $125,000 up front by certified check. We are in possession of that certified check. That was the deal of the contract. Before I wasted bringing any time for the board, I want it cash in hand. And if you guys want to approve it, it goes back to him. If you approve it, then we have the cash that is in hand being held. This is just for Wiggins. As we mentioned, we have a lot of excess acre feet of water going down the river per year, just mainly leftover stuff that we're putting augmentation in our camera ditch. We're going to agree to, for $125,000, give him 17 acre feet of raw water in the South Platte River to be delivered. I set the contract up where he doesn't get a drop of water till 2026. So quite a ways out from now. So it allows Wiggins, if they want to use that money, to buy a share of water. And we get to use that water, all that water, up until 2026. Whatever water he doesn't use of that 17 acre feet belongs to Wiggins. There is a maximum limit of 0.10 CFS, which is 45 gallons per minute is the rate of delivery. Obviously, most of that comes, certain times of year. He's probably going to be more of a trickle year round, which is what we have a lot of water of, is little trickle water year round. We agreed to replace his depletions. He suffered any transit loss, so, to get where his pools on the river are, if it ends up being lost because of irrigation, or because of evaporation, that's on him to deal with. And starting in 2026, whatever water he uses, he will have to pay the town $40 per acre foot. That price increases at 1% per year, starting in 2027, the following year. So that gives us the cost of providing that water to him. Basically, just selling them. He's buying the water. We're letting him use his water, then we're paying him to put the water in the river, or he's paying us to put the water in the river, sorry. And obviously we'll have to provide our annual accounting for the water going in the river, and they provide their own accounting for their wells. So when we talked, nothing, actually the only difference in there is I put a longer delivery date before when we start water from our initial conversations, and everything else is pretty well the same as we discussed in the past. I'm glad to answer any questions.
So when he makes his
Has he
payment-
paid that fee?
Yes, I have a cashier's check in hand. So
So-
we have cash. I can go to the bank tomorrow.
How's he gonna pay every year after that, is it gonna be certified check or?
We would send them a accounting or billing, at the end of the year for what we did put in water. If he doesn't pay them, he defaults, we don't owe him water anymore.
Okay, so we go.
Yeah.
He's gotta pay or
Yeah,
else
it
nothing.
would, it would be in the town's advantage for him not to pay, let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I mean, how he does pay, do we have it written that he can pay with just a check or a certified check or?
We don't have anything in there, but,
Okay.
I mean, obviously, you just wrote a check and the check bounced and we
Yeah.
just prosecute them.
That's a good idea.
So, I mean,
There's
I mean, generally, most people, I mean, occasionally, you know, we'll call and say, fix it and pay the $25 late fee, then if they don't do it, then, you know, we send it off to the police department.
On that,
So we've
on
done
that
that a
size
few
of a
times.
check, we wanna make it more than $25 fee.
Yeah.
Throwing a
A
percentage.
3,000, but whatever we do for that, we have to do for people that do the same thing with the water bill, so remember that, so. And Bruce, did you have another question, or, that was yours, the certified check, okay. So overall, pretty good deal for the town. You know, just, it's kinda funny, you look at the excess 800 feet we have going down the river, if we were able to do similar deals, that equals $99 million.
Jeff, I might call your attention to the item 15, following that letter from the water attorney, the defaults and remedies. Letter of the contract.
What page you at? Oh, 15?
Yeah, so page 4 or 6 of the agreement, number 15 on the contract.
Default and remedy.
That kind of covers what your question was, I think.
And obviously, we waive all liability. And so with this said, so Steve Jeffers prepared this, our water attorney, and Melinda Colley, our town attorney, also reviewed it on behalf of the town and made comments and incorporated those into the agreement. And also, all of our attorney fees that we had to do to prepare this contract and to review his revisions to the contract, as I told the board, he put a cash deposit with the town where we're pulling all of those bills out of his cash deposit. So there's been zero cost to the town to put this together.
I move that we approve resolution 09-2019, a resolution approving a water agreement between the town of Wiggins and WGC Trading Company.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 9-2019, a resolution approving water agreement between the town of Wiggins and WGC Trading Company. Roll call vote, please.
Chris Sandoval,
Yes.
Jeff Palmer,
Yes?
Bruce Miller,
Yes.
Pat Musgrave,
Yes.
Charles Rule.
Yes. Motion is carried. Anything else?
Yeah, one more resolution, I think,
Oh, okay.
on the agenda there.
Take down there too. Okay, we have resolution 10-2019, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the town of Wiggins and the Morgan County Clerk and Recorder regarding the conduct of and administration of the November 5th, 2019 general mail ballot election.
Pat, do you wanna take that, or you want me to take it? You're probably more familiar, but I can do it if you want.
It's normal, let me get to the,
I can grab it real quick, I can do it.
you got it?
Yeah, so just Mayor and Trustees, real quick, we're working, we have a special election to fill our empty seat in November. And, that election is gonna be a coordinated election with the county, which I believe you authorized by ordinance or resolution in the past. So this is the IGA that covers that election process. We have to provide, some judges, Pat has to be involved for the counting. We pay our pro rata share of the total cost of the election to the county, which is probably gonna be $3,000-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. Could be more, could be less, it depends on how many things are on the ballot. And, anyway, this is required for the election to move forward. For the special election. So the seat that you're gonna fill in November, the person will also be up for re-election in April, along with the other people who have 2 years terms, and we'll be doing this one other time. So you'll see this again in probably another 2 or 3 months.
Any questions?
I don't think so.
Well, I move we approve resolution, was it 10-2019, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the town of Wiggins and the Morgan County Clerk and Recorder regarding the conduct and administration of the November 5th, 2019 general mail ballot election.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 10-2019, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the town of Wiggins and the Morgan County Clerk and Recorder regarding the conduct of and the administration of the November 5th, 2019 general mail ballot election. A roll call vote, please.
Chris Sandoval,
Yes.
Jeff Palmer,
Yes.
Bruce Miller,
Yes.
Pat Musgrave,
Yes.
Charles Roll.
Yes. Motion is carried. Anything else, Paul?
Yeah, real quick, trustees, I just want to remind everybody, we do have another special meeting on September 10th at 6 o'clock, that'll be Tuesday, to review the budget again. And then we'll have a regular meeting at 7 o'clock on September 11th. That one probably will be a lot longer than this one, just because, well, hopefully we'll have the audit presentation if you can make that. Then I'm sure we'll have quite a few other things. We'll have to get back to the water and sewer projects and really get into those and get those finished out and discussed. And I'm sure we'll have a few other things to deal with at the September meeting. So that's about all I know. I encourage everybody, the next one we'll send stuff out as early as we can. Please try to take the time before to really get into the stuff we send to keep things moving efficiently so we can get out here before midnight.
Okay.
Have we heard on the school's fee in lieu? type-
Yes.
Have we
Yeah.
known where that's gonna be on the
Yeah, so-
agenda?
Yeah, there's a good chance it might get on the September. Melinda sent it recently, literally in the last day or two, over to them for the review. It's pretty the part that's going on is pretty technical. And so, and I apologize, it took me like 3 times to read it to really understand it, because it's very attorney-ish, which it has to be because of some statutes. And Melinda's just been kind of booked and busy too, but they have it, and I assume we'll have comments back on that. We may have to have a meeting to discuss some details in there, because there's some protections in there she feels that are important to the town, and a couple of others I mentioned to her that, I'm not sure how those would be taken. Basically, we do have some worries with that proposition that was passed last time. If that was passed, then that liability would fall on the town, so we're passing that liability on to the school, so they're gonna have to accept that liability. So there's a few little things like that. So at minimum, we will have a review of it. I'm not sure if Melinda would want to do that in executive, because there's some contract negotiations on there, or if it'll be ready to go. But either way, we'll have something on the agenda for you guys to look out and give comment for approval at the next one. But right now, there's zero impact, because there's nothing new being built that would impact
No, I
those
was
impact
just-
fees.
yeah.
So we do have we got a little bit of time, but it's really been, it's kind of been on our end, why it's been a little bit slow. Just by the time I got the review and got comments back to her, and we've been having some back and forth. So,
Okay.
but they have it.
Okay, thank you. And then one last thing, without disclosing anything, what was discussed in executive at last meeting, the last part of our meeting, if you recall?
Oh, generally, yeah.
Could you put that in writing for us? Would that be possible, or no?
I will only do that once, as it states within that contract.
Okay,
Once that number is near. So
Okay.
I don't have any numbers to provide at the town, so I don't have any immediate plans at the moment, so.
okay, thank you.
Have anything else, Paul?
No, I
Yep.
appreciate you getting us out here at 8:30. That's almost
That didn't beat
Not-
Mary Ellen, though.
Mary Ellen was 15
That was
minutes.
30, that was
Gosh,
30
I remember
minutes,
that
nobody's
meeting.
beat her.
That was amazing.
Do you have a comment, Cindy?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
Since Paul does not have a residence here and he has bought a residence in Florida in January, signed a contract with us in February for another year, sold his property here, how does he have the best interest of the town at heart when he's gone all the time and there's no one here to do anything? I don't understand. I just do not understand.
I'm not gonna comment on personal matters. I have a lot of vacation time. I've been using it. And, my contract is not a year-by-year contract. I'm not gonna
Are
indulge.
you living here?
I'm not gonna indulge this game with you, Cindy. I'm
Are
sorry.
you
I
living
find it
here?
rude. I'm not gonna play the game. I'm done.
It's
I
not
think
a
that's
game.
enough, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
No further business, meeting adjourned.